Well, we're glad everybody's had a chance to hit the snack table, and if you haven't, please do. We're going to have an informal afternoon, so please welcome. I'm glad everybody's here. What we're going to do today is really have a chance to get to know each other a little bit. Some of us know each other actually quite well. And really, this is a day about trying to tell people about what community psychology is and about what our program is all about for those of you that might be interested. And most of us in this room are already involved in the program, so thank you for coming if you're here, and thank you especially for those that want to know more. So again, we're going to be informal. Questions are the right thing to do today. If you have questions, we're going to have some time as a big group, and we're going to have some time as small groups. So I think with that, I want to turn it over to Kyra Brown, who's going to tell us something that we all been wanting to know, but there's a question from Charlie.
Now, the first thing I would like to add, I'd like to finish on the book.
Yes. Yes. Thanks, Charlie.
We have our team, so I would like to be recruitment committee to all let's thank them. How about the recruitment committee stand? And let's thank them.
All right.
I'm Laura Herpelsheimer.
And you are
a fifth-year student working with Charlie, or Dr. Bertel.
We can be informal here today, folks.
I'm Kyra Brown, working with Dr. Lewis.
I'm David Stowell, working with Dr. Lewis also.
I'm Rachel Smith, I'm working with Dr. Medvey.
You're Carrie Nelson. I'm also working with Dr. Medvey.
Giovanna Merriman, I'm working with Dr. Lewis.
Jamie Wilfredo, also working with Dr. Lewis.
All right. Well,
And Nicole, the new member.
New member, I didn't get to work all that much, so you don't do anything for me.
wait till next year. But the most important part of our program is Kyra, who's going to explain to us what the heck is community psychology. No pressure, Kyra. I know. Hey, take notes.
Don't have a collar. Okay. All right. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Am I picking it? Okay. Yes. All right. Okay. So as was mentioned, I'm gonna just kind of talk a little bit about community psychology. Who's in the room heard of community psychology? Well, I'm sure you heard of it since you're here. Well, we'll go into that. All right, so just starting with kind of a brief overview of community psychology. A lot of different events kind of led to what we know as the birth of community psychology. So a confluence of events. But most significantly, when we think about community psychology in the history, was kind of this movement. Well, if you think back to, the 60s, the deinstitutionalization, a lot of people from psychiatric hospitals were released. And so when we think about all of these events that happened, these persons were released into the community. And so there was this really big push for, how can we get these individuals out into the community and receive their services? And so what happened was you started to get kind of this paradigm shift with community psychologists really kind of thinking about what's our role. How's our role changing and what is it that we're needing to do? And so kind of the larger context is, we had all these different social movements going on, the women's rights movement, the civil rights movement, the farmers movement out on the West Coast. So all of these things kind of led to the birth of community psychology in 1965, the Swampscott Conference, where psychologists and students convened and really made a decision, hey, this is what we're going to do with the field. This is where we're going to take it. Anything? Oh, and so just to kind of mention, in a couple of years later, a really big thing, Miller was a psychologist, and one of the things he talked about was giving psychology away. And so that's kind of the essence of community psychology. How can we give it away? So I'm going to talk about some of the key foundations of community psychology. So this is one definition that's offered for what community psychology is, but since everyone's here, I know everyone knows what community psychology is. Okay. And so some of you may or may not know that community psychology is guided by what we call our 7 core principles: individual and family wellness, sense of community, respect for human diversity, that's cut off a little bit, social justice, so really social justice oriented in the work that we do, the research that we do, citizen participation, so how can we include citizens in that research process, that practice process, collaboration and community strength, so how can we work with community members and citizens, and how can we shift from a deficit lens, but more so to kind of a strengths lens, and identify what are the great things that are working with the group to further get to our goals here. And then empirical grounding, so a really strong emphasis on the research aspect. Okay. I wanted to take time just to kind of mention our 18 competencies. This is something that's kind of been in the works for a couple of years now. And so when you think of competencies, this is something that we've been kind of pushing for, not necessarily accreditation, but kind of some type of dialogue where we can articulate what skills we offer and really kind of clarify to people. I mean, if you've ever tried to explain what a community psychologist does or what your skills are, this comes in to be very, very useful. So I'm not going to go over all of them, but you can kind of see what those competencies are, okay, what that skill set is, and how we can integrate that into our training and into our practice.
Does anyone have any questions about one that they see up here and they're not really familiar with what it may envision? Or no questions?
Okay. So when we talk about research here, this is kind of something that we do. We sit in our labs and we look through, microscopes and kind of examine things. Well, not really. We like to believe we're the savers of the world. So our national organization is the Society for Community Research and Action. And so this includes a lot of different community psychologists and practitioners all over the nation. Really, our work looks a lot like this. So you'll see us in a community setting, working with citizens, working with to kind of figure out what these issues are. So you won't necessarily see us in an office or sitting in a research lab. Very action oriented. So what can community psychologists do? Okay. You'll see a lot of different community psychologists in several different settings. A lot may focus on research, so really conducting research. We see advocates who are community psychologists advocating at the public policy level, building capacity for organizations, collaborating with different organizations. So facilitator with groups that they're working with. So we do a lot of different types of things. It's hard to one big picture of what a community psychologist does. And in addition, we work at many different types of places. We have community psychologists who work in community-based organizations. Places where community psychologists are able to kind of use the skills that they have to work with these different groups, organizations, and institutions. Okay, so that is community psychology. Any questions that anyone has? Maybe did something marinate with the 18 competencies? Okay, so if there's no questions, I'm going to pass it over to, I think we want to break out into our research and practice session. So what we're going to do is we have posters set up for each research team. And so we're going to break out, and persons from those research teams are going to talk about their research and their practice. And so we'll take about 15 minutes for that, 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. Okay, so feel free to mingle around and we'll talk to you.
Thank you.
Blake, that was my last name.
Oh, okay.
I might change my name 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Depending on what state I'm in, I go by different names.
All right. Name works. Well, we are the behavioral structural research and faculty team, Kyra. Another student who's and so we do different types of projects. A lot of that kind of different interests, but the relationship between the interrelated. So my primary interest is really how they see themselves, helping them to
I know her from class. I was in Dr. Lewis's class.
Oh, okay.
But he doesn't know, so if you want to direct your attention to him.
All right, Tristan. And then I'll let everybody say what.
Oh, did you stop by the office? Oh, great. Oh, terrific. Oh, that's right. You do have that connection. Yeah.
It changes. So it's around health and public health in particular, but I also have an interest in policy.
And so this is just kind of a poster of some of the different stuff, but some of the different can't get you out of talking.
There we go.
Partnership here at WSU, and then we recently had a close to our mentor program, which is Empowerment Implementation Project. And so I guess it's for you, but a lot of our work is community-based, so we'll work with organizations, whatever it is that they feel they need us to do.
Good afternoon. Right now, my name is Rhonda Lewis. I'm a faculty member in the community psychology program. And right now, we're in our research and practice phase. And we just finished hearing Kyra Brown talk about what community psychology is. And she just covered the 18 competencies. And right now, each faculty member and each research team is describing their research program. And so, as you can see, each one of the students is heavily engaged in what each research program is talking about. And we're just so pleased that our community psychology exploration day is going so well. So I hope that you're enjoying our time together this afternoon for our community psychology exploration day. And we're just hoping that you will come and apply to our community psychology PhD program. We're so excited that this day is going well. Our PhD program is still so there's an opportunity. And Dr. Lewis Medvine, and I hope that you would think that and come and work with me as well, Dr. Rhonda Lewis. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of our day. We're going to hear from Dr. Jane Eby later on in the day, and more about our PhD program and how to apply. That's coming up later, and also our graduate panel. So we look forward to hearing your comments about how our live feed is going today, and also announced how our graduate program application process is coming up later in the year. So we look forward to seeing those applications coming on in. So give us your feedback. Thank you.
I've done some work with the church with various Kenya a couple years ago. Working with some people who had just recently experienced
Great-granddaughter as often. We have reports because it's actually a different outreach as opposed to the mail. It's not something we're accustomed to doing. So she has
their experiences with
when she was on the computer, she was
yeah.
So she had some kind of easy to operate program for like.
Well, one of the things that a lot of our faculty, I mean, they have connections with almost everybody in the community. And I know especially Greg, he does a lot of work with Catholic Charities and different faith-based organizations. We work with faith-based organizations. So, you know, you're like a lot of us, like you said, still exploring, you know, kind of how to navigate.
Or he's just sitting there Skyping. All he's doing is like clicking away on his computer doing work, and they're Skyping, and I'm all like,
they had the opportunity to meet some of my colleagues in the office this summer.
The junior, senior,
She was meet her at a museum. How do you do measurement views? She stood there and then they had this
sauna, but
because they get it costume. So they asked me, okay, you do that, and then we go through.
When I did took a class, research
So yeah, it's a great tool. It is right now.
I'm offering them. They're both in my class.
It's with emotions. Go there, you get
I wanted to be involved in more, because she offered, she sent me an email, but the times didn't match up. I was out of town.
He kind of touched on it.
I'm trying to recruit her for your senior services.
I don't have class until 7 o'clock. Okay. But I do have something going on from 5 to 7.
It's 11.
Where is that? There we go. You invited, and I thought you were talking to Courtney. I didn't want to get involved with that. That was more personal. Dr. Keeler, I learned a lot from Dr. Keeler.
Going over that cake. I said, going over that cake.
Yeah, 11 o'clock.
I'm actually, her class right now, the semester is my favorite class.
Oh.
When I know it.
He didn't learn nothing from me. He knew everything in my class. He didn't learn nothing from my class. He knew everything in my class. Everything in community psychology I already knew. Like, okay.
I didn't know the type of
Right. Good. I want you to get what you want.
If you are interested in what I do, I can probably find somebody.
When I was an undergraduate student, everybody knew.
kind of always, I'd be like, I want to graduate in December, and I don't want to pay for next semester. I want to use that money to graduate. I only got so much money coming in.
See, I didn't do that. Maybe it was just a different time.
I'm debt free and I'm planning on staying there.
What?
I didn't do that. Okay. It was just a different time. I took my 15 hours.
Yeah.
I would enjoy that.
Let's talk.
I would enjoy helping.
Where do I know from? Yeah.
The people that want to
Now you have a sense of
Feel free to come in. They're having their own little side.
I work with Jumbo for, I have 2 months.
I'm going to try to use VCU and
When I
have
was
that.
in the data, your mom was hospitalized. She was one of the
It's been about education.
exercise.
I'm interested in more about counseling.
Right. Yeah. She's like, I'm a very nice young man.
Yeah. And she was thinking about you.
Yeah.
Children into a group that they can actually see. Because 90% of residential is
Yeah.
and 80%, I could be wrong, of them never see
That is what your mom was telling me, but I think that she was.
She got her tenure last year.
Yeah, that is what your mom was telling me.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we can do a PhD in community psychology because
That they really don't like
Except for the fact that all the deaf people that I've already met are already trying to get to interact.
Okay, we are. We have something special,
Sort of a life.
and they figure out.
Can you, I can give you my information.
Yeah, talk to her. We're just progressive. She's on the website.
Okay.
Heather Growing. And talk about her experience. She wants to be a specialist in something with sign language or something. And she had to move out. And maybe that time has passed. But whatever she wanted to do, they were like, that's what we need. I don't know. Remember all the nuances? But maybe you're trying to do it from a different angle. I'm trying to wrap my brain.
Well, it could be that, or it could be.
I've graduated.
People that she was talking
I'm an
to.
AmeriCorps member. I'm serving my second year.
The people I'm talking to, I'm going in.
Last year I was
Technically hard of hearing, so I'm already.
Oh, part of the community. Okay, good. Gotcha.
I have 40% hearing.
Okay, good. Because, honey, whatever it was she was trying to do, honey, they was not.
the program. There's a health initiative. It's really interesting. And we were able to form a lot of programs that existed in those kids, but there aren't a lot of programs.
But yeah, I would just that's how we see that.
It's all about.
It's unbelievable how well she
I would do some, I know at Gallaudet, you have to have 3.5 GPA.
Okay.
I have it now, this semester, I'm not going to have that. That's the one I'm doing the best at. That's the reason why I like it though.
Yeah.
The others, like astrology,
Yeah.
I'm getting a C. Because I'm focusing on my psychology classes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that because astrology is still that physics requirement.
Walker, the one that I work for.
Astrology for physics. Oh, good.
On the research.
That'll guide you if you look at it that way.
I've been seeing and hearing things about those because I really like forming those relationships and getting
planning on taking a couple of years after I got my degree.
I think one of the interests was either know
No, it's not.
I was just waiting for
also related to their patients, maybe.
I think you can kind of tell where
both.
we're
I know.
He's teaching the Department of Psychology.
Not that they're biased.
Oh, that's terrific, because we were always trying to do local.
Well, thank you guys.
He didn't tell me today, but he told us Monday.
Okay, good.
To friends. We really haven't had that many.
Thanks.
To visit us. Hi, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Kelsey Hunter.
Hi, Kelsey.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Exactly.
How are you?
I'm all right. Yourself?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Welcome.
All right. That is fine.
Josh Blake. Blake is my last name. I don't know why I put Blake down, but they already started. Someone stayed on it. For 12 years, and so the military calls you by your last name. And they
We'll call you Josh, because we're not the military.
Here in Wichita, I grew up here, so depending on what part of town I grew up, we'll call Mark. That's my middle name. I changed it when I was in high school. Went by Jason for a year. I am. I'm going to graduate in. My major is psychology, but I really am focused on ASL with the communication sciences. Because I eventually I want to work with hearing parents. And I knew about all that they did back in 2000. Probably would not be a psychology major today.
Well, there's a lot of overlap. We have a faculty member from CSD.
I heard that faculty member, somebody I need to get a hold of. Jamie and I were sitting.
You enjoy
Howdy.
Introduce yourself. Are you from WSU?
I am. I just transferred from Newman.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, this was my first semester of Wichita State. My parents went to Wichita State.
I do every semester.
Kind of a senior-ish. It's that whole transfer state that I'm in. It's kind of like weird. I am. I took a psych course in high school.
December classes.
I loved it. Now I'm here.
That's what my daughter always says.
Josh, you're so
Remember we went to that Dr. Lewis's class? Yeah, he was there.
I have my life to go home on 3 days every semester.
Yeah, you was safe. Yeah. He was the one who was
I was not getting started today. I'm like, I'm not actually teaching gen psych, I'm teaching development.
say something about what you're doing.
Good for you.
It is?
It is because he doesn't know what he wants to do.
Yeah,
Oh,
still
okay.
exploring.
All right.
The wide world
Okay.
of everything.
Yeah, at least that's.
Well, maybe you'll be interested and so, one kind of the umbrella of what we're interested in. Especially with aging. And so right now, there's going to be a focus on one of the things that's being studied a lot, which is isolation, social isolation.
The sign.
Is that the sign? So one finger.
Because you're I,
Yeah.
that's the letter I, and so you're alone.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and so if you're alone, that means that you're not seeing other people, you're not having contact with other people. And so kind of intuitively, that is linked to poor health and to poor health outcomes, to mortality. Because let's say you have some kind of an infection on your arm and it doesn't bother you, but someone comes over and they say, gee, that looks bad. You should see a doctor about that. And chances are we're going to do that. But if you're socially isolated, there isn't any feedback like that. So we know from very large studies that social isolation is linked to poor outcomes in terms of health and mental health. And so with the elderly, there are a lot of settings in which the elderly are at high risk for social isolation. Believe it or not, nursing home is one, even though people are in nursing homes and they're rooming and meeting and interacting with people every day. There's a fairly high level of isolation. There's a fairly high level of isolation in assisted living, where people are also in constant care, but they may not have much interest in the people around them, more interested in their families, friends. And then we were just studying this home and community-based service population. These are people who have difficulties with activities of daily living, like grooming or shopping or preparing meals or dressing or with medication. And it's cheaper for the state to keep people in the community rather than putting them in nursing homes. So there's an increasing emphasis on this home and community population. And they really haven't been studied. And so we did Carrie and Rachel and Samuel, and Missy and some other people, Jeff is not here, did interviews with 40 people who were who were home and community-based services and measuring among other things of social isolation and loneliness and quality of life and quality of relationships. And also, we didn't expect to find this, but we asked them if they were currently using computers. We did want to ask them about were they interested in using computers, but we asked them, by the way, are you using computers now? And 10 of them were. And those people were significantly less lonely and less isolated than the people who were not using them. And there wasn't really a systematic difference in terms of age or where they were living or sex or anything like that that predicted computer use. Might have been things in their family they didn't really understand. We did come into with the idea that computers potentially would be of interest to the population. And so we showed them a 3-minute video that demonstrated testimonials from seniors, older persons. We're trying to figure out what the least offensive term is. Older adults. Older adults is kind of probably the term of choice. But this is people who have communication difficulties or sensory difficulties. And this is a software hardware combination that accommodates sensory and cognitive orientation. Testimonials use that system and communicated with them. And 85% of the people said they wanted to use it. So, and we think there's a lot of potential for that. So we're interested, we're trying to get project funded in assisted living with a special software that creates private social
We have about 4 more minutes.
as opposed to Facebook. Facebook is a potential possibility, but private social networks don't expose people to the risk of being explained or injury. They don't bombard them with all kinds of email. They don't get spam. So we're working with a software company.
Nope.
I knew what you were trying to do. Really, the key was that a large percentage haven't been able to find the study, but conversationally, there are a lot of these higher education facilities are buying computers now for their residents. It seems like 10 or 15% of the residents, if that. So where we will come in, to develop a strategy for engaging the residents and using the computers. And we think we can do that by talking with them about the social networks and making it salient to them that there are people they want to communicate with, that they don't have the means to do now, but computers could be a means, by interviewing family members who would take some responsibility for encouraging this person to use the computer. Residents who are kind of experts on what they want to be experts and train them so they can train other residents. This is sort of applied social psychology, community psychology. Identifying all of the potential sources of influence that we can think of, putting them together to maximize the likelihood that these residents are going to use the computer. And then we want to be able to document that they're less isolated and the positive effects of that. So communities of assisted living, same set of issues in what's called senior focused housing, which is housing, which is not long-term care. People are living in it independently but subsidized through Section 8 housing family funding. Sometimes Medicaid. So these are like single room occupancy. Large apartment complexes with 60 people, and there's shady way, and these people are even more isolated. You should talk about Julie, one of the people we interviewed.
It feels so far away. If it was moving downstairs, or at least people would come over. Because I never could get the head of administration. Even when we were in Miami, where they a lot of pain a lot of the time, especially had experience a lot of those times. Very, very sharp, very smart, fairly healthy.
Okay, let's go on. Reconvene.
Lived all over the place, but she was just incredible.
And she got really excited about the computers because she wants there to be computers in her senior focused housing.
So that's where Jessica's doing.
We hope
That's
so.
where she lives. She lives.
So that's the kind of things that we do. And if you're interested, come talk to us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, thanks. Well, you know, the disability problem is a long time pioneering the computers in the community as there is with older persons, older adults. And there's actually a center that I found out about in the summer. It's a resource center for independent. It's on the west side, and I gave a talk there about evaluating the nonprofit. And they're providing those kind of services to the disabled and disabled persons. Yeah. I didn't even know that existed.
Graduate student panel. So will our panelists please take the,
Yeah, well, they have a big space.
come forward, please.
I was really impressed.
Where are we?
Yeah.
Sitting? Yes, we're sitting up here, and you're gonna talk into the mic, please. You know who you are. Who's
Who's the rest of the panel? There's one more person. Okay. You need a middle.
And please talk into the mic. You're live streaming. Thank
you. Deanna, introduce yourself.
Are these all on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am Giovanna Merriman. I am a second year student in the program.
I'm Dan Clifford. I'm a first year and I work with Dr. Meissen.
I'm Chris Vogel. I'm a fifth year with Dr. Birdsall.
I'm Carrie Nilsson. I'm a third year with Dr. Medvine.
That's
Where should we start? What do you want to know? You want me to start? Yes. Okay. We went over a lot if you came over to our poster, but I'm in the social relationships research work group. There's 7 of us, 8 of us-ish. We focus on relationships, so aspects of people's relationships. Primarily, we are focused on the aging population, so the elderly. We do things such as person-centered care research, so how well are nurse aides and residents interacting in nursing homes. We do social network evaluation. So my second year project was looking at the social networks as it related to isolation in a home and community-based care setting. So people who are receiving care inside their homes. Another part of that project was looking at their social network in terms of mental health and health outcomes, and then also their social network in terms of their computer usage. So we've kind of taken that and are going forward towards the technology aspect, because we do know that older adults do want to use the computer. They want to be able to keep in contact with their family members or their friends, their grandchildren. They want to see pictures, things like that. So the next projects hopefully will kind of expand upon those things. We'll look at their actual computer usage in settings like senior focused living. Another project is going to look at the residents' kind of satisfaction with the CNAs or their settings that they're in a nursing home. So that's another big project that's coming up. So we have a lot going on, but it's all wonderful and fun. And we enjoy every minute of it. So that's that. I'll let Chris.
Sounds fun. Like I said, I'm Chris. I'm with the Community Research and Assessment Methodology Lab with Dr. B. Right? Community Research, Assessment, Methodology. Okay.
Cram.
That's how we roll. We're currently doing research on academic entitlement, seeing how that relates to different facets of academic motivation. But historically, Dr. B has done a lot of work with survey development, survey validation. But we've also done, in the past 2 years, quite a bit of assessment. I don't know what type of assessment we would call the one we did with the undergraduate population. Last year, was that 2 years ago? But then 2 years ago, last year we did the roadblocks assessment for the administration from Dr. Bardot for whole WSU, so that was kind of exciting. That's our research, right? Like that's what we're doing. That seems to be the extent of it.
What were you just talking about?
My dissertation? I don't want to talk. So Dr. B and I were just talking about for dissertation ideas, attitudes towards government entities. We're interested in attitudes towards the CDC and how that relates to different aspects of your, let it be political affiliation, religious beliefs, something like that. But that's all I got on that.
Well, I'm Dan. I work with Dr. Meissen in the Community Research and Practice Collaborative. We do a lot of applied stuff out in communities and working with a lot of different types of organizations and becoming more efficient, establishing goals and evaluation procedures for outcomes. Right now, we're focused a lot on helping Mike Lemke, who's not here today, on his dissertation. He's working with trucker health because truck drivers don't exactly work in the most ideal situation for healthy behaviors and lifestyles. He's interviewing truckers that do maintain healthy lifestyles and looking at their behaviors and their attitudes towards maintaining a healthy lifestyle despite those circumstances. And it's qualitative research, which is new to me, so it's interesting to see how that works. And I found out that transcribing is lots of fun. But I think that's about all we have.
So I am part of the Behavioral Research and Action Team, which is Dr. Lewis's group. And one of the main projects that group has been working on has been the YIP, Youth Empowerment Improvement Project, which was multiple years looking at academic achievement and also different components that affect that achievement within adolescence. So looking at some health things, some lifestyle choices, substance abuse, So different areas. Each of our team members have an interest surrounding that they interrelate. So adolescence, education, and health, and different subpopulations that could include is kind of how we team up and work on different things. And then in the midst of that, we also have the opportunities for projects from the community. And so recently we have been approached about doing some focus group work surrounding breast and cervical cancer, as well as some work with disability services. So.
Nice.
I think the next question was, why did you choose community psychology? I think way back when.
Oh my.
Well, I don't have to think that far back.
Years
Several
ago?
years. So, okay, I will start on this side. Dan and I are a little fresher. So, so for me, my background is in public health. And honestly didn't know a whole lot about community psychology. And the more I learned about it, especially the components of research and the social action, for me, that fell in line with a lot of the work that we do in public health. And it also allowed me the opportunity, hopefully, to answer some of the questions about why, when we look at some interventions that are put into place or services that are put in place to help the community, why they fail to a certain extent, or they're not as successful as we would like for them to be. And that's what got me here.
Well, my background was actually in biology, but after I graduated, I got involved in AmeriCorps up in Lawrence, Kansas, and I was really plugged into the social services network and nonprofit world, and seeing just the wide range of ways you can get involved and all the different problems that we sort of face today as a society, and definitely with the social justice orientation, I became sort of interested in what community psychology was. And I really, I found this program, and it seemed to be a really good fit with everything I was interested in. So now I'm here.
When I first heard about the community program, it was back when WSU still had the substance abuse certificate. So that's actually what I was going here for, the counseling certificate. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but that ended, I think, my third year here. But even while I was taking classes for that, I felt a need to address the problem on a larger scale. And one thing that always stuck with me, Dr. Myason has had us interview a community psychologist for the CC seminar class. And I was fortunate enough to interview Dr. Julian Rappaport, and there's something that he said that will always stick in my head, that community psychology gives us a universal degree to do work in the particular. And that universal degree is just to do good, improve the standard of living for as many people as we can in whatever way we really can. And that's what really drew me into it, that our degree can be applied to so many different ways. There's never going to not be a need to help people. And that's what I liked about it.
Good. I don't know if I can follow that
That's
up. Well, I have, my background is sociology, psychology, and history, and so those things have always been a passion of mine. And when I first started coming to WSU, my mom has worked in nonprofits my entire life, so I've kind of been involved in the grant and nonprofit world since I was born, and forced to do all sorts of volunteer activities and things like that. So it was kind of secondhand to me. But when I transferred to WSU and got into the psychology department, I got the lovely invitation to come to psychology, our community psychology exploration day. And so I came, and I was sitting at the tables talking to all the professors, and I really am just interested in the dynamics of relationships. So I have children, obviously I have parents and grandparents, and so relationships have always just fascinated me. So talking to Dr. Medvine, I got involved in research very early, my sophomore year. So I've been around forever. But that really was really beneficial, because for me being involved in research, it wasn't as hard of a transition from undergrad to graduate school, because you're already enmeshed, people know you. It helps you build kind of the community relationships as well as the university relationships. So it was just a really good fit with just what I'd been doing and what I wanted to do. And I used to work with foster care students, and now I'm working with the elderly, and they seem like vastly different populations, but there are a lot of similarities in the issues that people face. And so I'm really just interested in, helping people have quality lives, and that's why community really seemed to fit for me. So, yeah. I didn't beat Chris, but I tried.
Valiant effort.
You had Julian in there, so I can't.
There's a name drop in there.
Right. So, any questions? Kyra.
So how might, I guess for those of you who come from kind of a working background as well as those who are coming directly from undergraduate, how does that differ from being in a doctoral program? Could you speak on that?
So I was working full-time and an undergrad at the same time. So it's actually been kind of nice to just have, instead of working and taking classes, like school now is my job. So classes are my job, teaching, doing research is my job now. And so it was, I guess because I was so used to working from 8 to 5 anyway, it wasn't that big of a, the time constraints weren't as big of a shift. Obviously now this is what I do. Giovanna might be able to speak more about working while in grad school, which is a little bit different.
So for me, I work full time, and I've been averaging about 9 hours a semester here. And I would just say for those who work, think about it very, very seriously before you commit. But it has been wonderful for me. It has been a great fit, and you are able to balance it, but it does take some time management and a lot of commitment. And for me, it also takes a very strong support system. So if you do have families, which I do, they have to understand also, the time that it will draw away from them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing how you can bring people into some of the things that you do, even though they're not students. And so, I've had my daughter help me study and, for different things, and, had my husband look at some papers, and they're looking at it from a different vantage point, but, always more eyes are better than just two.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, for me as a working person, it also benefits that the degree fits with what I'm doing. And so going back to work, the advantages are that I work, my day to day, and I bring a different light or a different viewpoint with me just from being in school now. And so if you have the ability to mesh two different things, the program with what you're working, if you are working, then that's a plus, and both sides kind of benefit from that. But again, give it a lot of thought. Give it a lot of thought. So.
Well, I had taken 2 years off, and I was working for AmeriCorps and then the Housing Authority up in Lawrence. I was able to come here with the expectation that I knew I was going to put a minimum of about 40 hours a week into grad school. So that definitely helped to have that background of being able to come in with the expectation of working from at least 8 to 5, 8 to 6 every day. And that helps a lot. I'm really hoping I can maintain that discipline throughout my time here. I'm not sure if that'll happen, but that's the plan. And I definitely employ some structured procrastination, which Dr. Meisen recommended that I do, which really helps a lot in terms of time management and getting things done in the best way possible. So it's a lot to juggle, but if you approach it with the right attitude and the expectation of putting a lot of time into it, it's definitely manageable.
Very true. I don't know if it was a shocker, but one of the things that stuck out to me was the difference in the allotted time for the class. And a lot of our undergrad classes, or at least the ones I took here, it seems like 2 to 3 hours of classwork for every hour you were inside a class was not very applicable. In grad school, the 3 to 4 hours for every 1 hour you're in class is. Classes where you'll have 150 pages to read between Tuesday and Thursday and take notes on it and read it again. So minimum of 40 hours a week, a lot of that is devoted to you doing your work outside of class. And you have to be self-motivated, otherwise you'll get behind just like people do. That's all I got.
I do want to mention, when you talk about that, one thing, and not being in other graduate programs, but one thing that I will say about this program for those who may be interested is it is a community within the program, and the other students have been I mean, just wonderful as far as, helping to give you tips or just the knowledge that they have. And, just even looking on the panel, you can see we're all at different points in our schooling or in our education. And so that is a benefit of the program, and take advantage of it. And even in our research group, I mean, we have 2 undergrads that are coming to gain, some research experience like Carrie mentioned. And, they're open to that just so you can get a better feel for whatever decision you look to make. Why don't you tell them about toys?
What's that? Student has a question.
Okay.
Frank, did you have a question?
I did have a question, but you already answered it. I wanted to know about, and really this is for everybody, returning students. If you've taken a break from your undergraduate and then going into graduate, as far as memory from all that stuff from your undergraduate, how does that?
Oh, it's a whole nother world in grad school. I mean, undergrad is very important for learning, the basic skills and, getting through classes and obviously having a psychological basis. But people come into our program without a lot of psychology at all. You learn a whole lot more in your grad school classes than than you need to worry about. You don't need to, because you have a lot of the time in our classes, real life experience is very, very important, or having something, applicable to what's going on is very important. So I wouldn't worry about the gap at all. Would you say, Giovanna? No.
No, I mean, it's.
It's a good sign if you are a little concerned.
Yeah.
Not that you need to be, but it talks about motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I find returning students do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and really, at some point, if you go through the program, you'll get to teach and you'll learn way more.
And it'll come back what you learned in college, and you'll teach yourself by teaching. It's really pretty interesting. What do you say, Charlie?
It's amazing what duress.
That's right. You learn fast when you have to. Yeah. No, but I wouldn't. I mean, be a little bit. Don't be too concerned about that. You'll be fine. Yeah. Any other questions?
I'll just say about that. That's intentional, actually. We want people to come to our program that are not just, coming right out of undergraduate school and not having had a break since kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
We love those people, and they make up a portion of who we are. But we like people that have been out for a while. We like to have people from other disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
What, maybe half of the folks that come into our program are traditional psych majors, and the rest have degrees in things like biology and public health and sociology and a whole bunch of other things. So, and we like that, and we look for students that really want to be a community psychologist, and we're not so much worried about what they know, because we know they're going to bring a lot to the table, and they're going to learn a lot while they're here.
Right.
In fact, I wonder how many here were not psychology majors. Something like that.
Healthy minority.
How many of you took a break between the undergrad programs? Does that help you a little?
Yes.
Okay.
For people who are going to be applying this fall, what advice do you have for them?
Oh, we have a whole section.
Yeah, David will talk about, but I mean, we can give a little bit. Start right now. Start writing all your stuff right when you get home today, because it takes a lot of time.
Involvement in research.
And get involvement in research. Oh, okay. The question was, what advice could we give to people who are going to apply for next fall? So yeah, get involved in research. That's very, very important. Make sure that you have quality people to write your letters for you, because they're the ones that know you the best, have like your professors, people that you've worked with. Yeah, but start early, I would say. Sign up for the GRE early so you have a chance to take it again. The GRE is the Graduate Requirement Exam. Is that what it stands for? Records exam. So it's kind of a standardized test. I don't know the scoring anymore. They changed it since I took it, but yeah, there's
the 50th percentile was 150.
50th percentile is 150. Okay, so they changed because it used to be thousands when we took it, I think.
How do I get involved in research? I don't know anybody.
How do you get involved in research? You get on our website, or you talk to one of the graduate students, and you email our professor. and you go talk to them. What else?
Yeah, on the website it has all the professors' interests and just see if there's one that you find interesting.
Show up.
Kind of try to meet with them. They're busy people, but they're also sometimes nice. And
They're sometimes nice. They're usually nice.
Also, too, if you don't have access to a like academic library, you can go to a lot of public libraries and you can search databases and find research there and find publications that have been done by either professors here or associates of professors here. So you can find out a lot that way as well.
Also through our website.
The website.
On our website for each faculty member, you'll find quite a bit of information about each of us.
Absolutely. Yep. So get on the website and you'll find the blurbs and contact information. And
be nice to the people you ask for your letters of recommendation.
Yes.
Don't ask them like the halfway through
before,
December. Give them.
Yeah.
And make it easy for them to write the letters by giving them the resume and
Addressed envelope.
What I did was I put together my CV, my application, my transcript, my personal letter. I made copies of it all, gave it to the professors with a return envelope to the school that was stamped and addressed and ready to go. So I just made it easy for them to just look at my stuff, write my letter, stick it in an envelope, and send it.
And tell them when the deadline is.
That's right. Well, here's what you do. You set up a fake deadline. Tell them it's due January 1st instead of January 15th, and then you harass them mid-December.
Yeah. Plenty of time because they do have quite heavy loads.
Yeah, they're very busy people.
I
So.
prefer with faculty, not grad students.
Yeah.
Here's something, oh, well, this really fits in our other section. You can have more. If they require 4, you can actually have 5. You have 6. It's all good.
That's right.
I think I gave you like 10 or 15 people.
Yeah.
I don't know how many sent them in, but.
Yeah, it's a better idea to ask for more letters of reference than you need because somebody might not send theirs in.
This year, starting this fall, all of our graduate applications will be online.
So that the application will be electronic.
Submitting references.
Good.
You can find it on the WSU website.
Okay, so the
Psychology website.
online applications are on the WSU website. Okay.
They get to the psychology department.
Through the site. So if you Google or type in the little search bar psychology department, it'll be there.
Actually, psychology.wichita.edu.
Psychology.wichita.edu. I'm doing it for the live stream, so I'm reading everything Charlie says. But yes, well, that'll be a lot easier than the paper. Sending in millions of pieces of paper. Good.
So would we like to meet our alumni star?
Yeah. Dr. Martin's going to introduce us.
Okay. Was there any more questions? Yep. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to introduce Jane Eby. She's an alumni, Dr. Jane Eby, who came here in the mid-2000s, maybe a little before then, and graduated, 2009? And was honestly a joy to have in every class and was great to have all through her time here. And she's been working at Rainbows United ever since she left here. And we thought we would have her come in to talk about what she does as a community psychologist right here in Wichita, working in an organization that's done great things for our community. And has been around for, 40 years, 50 years? Yeah. Now this is amazing. I volunteered at Rainbows as an undergraduate. Is that amazing? And at that time it was like, it just moved from a garage to the basement of a church, and now it's a great organization. So Jane, can you come up and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Oh, that's the clip on. Probably the air.
This will just advance for here.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Meissen, for inviting me, and thank you, Dr. Lewis, for putting this together and making it not too intimidating to talk to students and prospective students. Rainbows United was started in 1972. It's a private nonprofit agency, local, and started, as Dr. Meissen alluded to, It was a grassroots beginning, started as a place where parents could bring disabled children. At that time, disabled kids were not allowed to attend public school. So Rainbows kind of started as a grassroots effort to help parents with the kids and help the kids develop. Over the years, Rainbows has kept pace and kind of evolved as special education law changed, and has kept up with that, and also with the inclusion movement, with the movement to get kids with disabilities fully included in school and in the community. We provide the Part C services, the Part C part of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and Rainbows is the lead agency for those services in Sedgwick County and in Butler County. And so we see a lot of kids mostly in their homes, and the evaluation to get those services, the qualifying evaluation assessment, is free to any parents. And so as part of the law, Rainbows has to follow up on all referrals and provide the evaluations and then offer services. Of course, parents can refuse, but we're serving a lot of kids in their homes. We also have a site where we provide early care and education. That's up by K96 in Oliver. And we have capacity for 72. The idea there is we can serve kids with special needs on site, and the goal is to have about 1/3 of classrooms be kids with special needs, and we have 5 classrooms there. We also provide recreation for school-aged kids when teachers are working but school is not in session. Supports for parents who are working, so we have summer day program for kids at Kids Cove, that's on the west side. And we provide targeted case management because a lot of kids that have disabilities have multiple needs that involve all these different systems that parents find it really hard to navigate, and you guys know a lot about that. Our early childhood mental health group is doing positive behavior support in classrooms, and we're serving a couple hundred kids ages 0 to 5 that way. We have 250 employees and an annual budget that's approaching $9 million. I started at Rainbows as a community practicum position in 2004. Dr. Myson advocated for me going to Rainbows. They were slow to respond, and because of deadlines, I almost ended up in a practicum in another department on this campus. Fortunately, Rainbows responded, woke up and made the call back at the very last minute, and they said, come out and we'll talk. Well, come out and we'll talk meant, can you write a grant in 1 week? And so I said, yes, I'll do that, and we did not get the grant, but that's how I started at Rainbows. And it was perfect timing because the person who had been writing their grants was ready to work less hours. She'd been working remotely, first from St. Louis and from Overland Park, and her husband's like, we're retiring and going to Tucson. So she was wanting to cut back on her hours, and so when I came on, the hours that she gave up, I was able to take, and so kind of moved from a couple hours to half-time, and then in 2007, I went and worked full-time when she retired. I'm a department of 1. We have lots of departments at Rainbows. I'm one of the few that's a department of 1. So they're always giving me grief about my employees and stuff like that. But I do get to supervise volunteers, and this year, Dr. Lewis arranged for us to have a clinical student in a community practicum, and Samantha Eskridge did a great job this spring, and I supervised her. And I'm talking with Dr. Medvine about having another clinical student come and work with us next spring. We also have a VISTA member with AmeriCorps who's very interested in grant writing, and so she's been getting into some of that this summer, you know, starting with really small grants and then doing some of the research on a little more substantial grants. So I have help. I also work really closely with the development department, which is 3 full-time staff. So together, with all the efforts, we submit between 30 and 40 grants a year, about one every 10 days. And our grants are bringing in about $3 million a year. Now that's not finding that, and that a lot of that is maintaining that. So, but you know, I try not to think about that day to day. Primary responsibilities, you can probably guess, is grant writing, figuring out what we're going to use for outcomes and how we're going to measure that, communicating with the program managers and funders, writing the reports back to the funders, documenting grant funds spent, a lot of grants compliance stuff to keep us up, so when we get our audit, we're ready for that. Rainbow's core value, I'd say, is putting children and families first. Community psychology gives me an understanding of where Rainbows is making an impact on the lives of kids and families. My example of this is Camp Woodchuck. This is from this past summer, a talent show, and this is a group sing-along as part of the talent show. Parents need the camp so that they can work. They've got to have a place where they feel like their kids are safe. A lot of the kids that come, other community programs just won't serve them. They have mobility needs, they may have medical needs like tube feeding, or they have behaviors which other programs say, we're sorry, we just cannot serve them. And our commitment to the Sedgwick County Disability Organization is we won't turn people away. So we have capacity at Kids Cove for 99 kids. And on any day today, we'll probably have 79, 80 kids in camp. So I find from talking with staff, parents, and kids, the camp gives kids a different identity other than what they get at school and at home. It gives them a sense of community. The parents, I've interviewed parents, they say, we see a different side of our kid when they're going to camp than what we see during the school year. And Rainbows has worked really hard to get the kids out into the community. The last 2 summers, somebody was taking a field trip every day. They'll try to send a choir out. They have choir robes and sound system and everything. They'll send them out to corporations, to other nonprofits. So their idea is they can give back to the community and they can be seen and they can be valued as part of the community. So these kind of experiences help to change the kids, help to change the parents, families. Really, the camp evolves as the kids evolve and has an influence on their caregivers at camp and then the community. Through grants, I like the opportunity to write logic models and come up with the evaluation, how we're going to do that. I've been able to help Rainbows a lot in this area when I started, and that wasn't so long ago. The funders were not happy with their idea of outcomes measurement. Their frame of mind was more output, so they were happy to write down how many kids they served, how many hours of this or that therapy. the funders were already moving on and saying, no, we want to know what happened to the kids. So I was able to help them a lot with that. We're currently involved in the Early Childhood Block Grant, implementing positive behavior support in the classrooms, and we're getting good pre and post data on behavior changes, you know, at the start of the intervention and then after maybe 3 months of intervention. Unfortunately, funders are not interested in paying for multi-measure research, the kind that we would say, this is really important and we need these measures to answer these questions. The funders are pretty satisfied with just one pre-post test and you're done. I have brought my logo with me to share. You'll have to use your imagination because I didn't know we were going to be televised and I didn't want to show something that's copyrighted. So my logo is a funny birthday card that somebody sent me. It's a Doberman, kind of a young Doberman dog, fully decked out in scuba diving gear with flippers, a mask, a tank, air tank, everything, standing in a kid's wading pool with about 1.5 inches of water. And that's really how I feel about research in my job. I've got these tools that I got from graduate school, and I can't use them. I spend a lot of time counting kids and tracking kids that are in our programs, and it's important and somebody has to do it, but it's not very satisfying from a research standpoint. I do have the opportunity to work collaboratively with other groups and agencies. These are some of our current partnerships, and as a staff, we're also involved in doing team building to increase our accountability and our leadership skills. As a community psychologist, I'm always looking for ways to include prevention in our services. The Early Childhood Block Grant, Rainbows is doing positive behavior support, and as that's implemented in the preschool classroom, it's improving the environment so that all kids can be successful and not just the kids that the teachers are saying, help me with this kid. I appreciate the services that Rainbows provides, and over the years I've benefited as a consumer of Rainbow services. I bring a parent's perspective to my work. As an infant, my daughter received the early intervention in-home services from Rainbows, and as soon as she was old enough to go to their preschool, she went and graduated, and then when camp started, she was in that first camper group of kids, and when she got to be 18, she said, that's it, you know, I'm done with camp. But then she went back for a year and volunteered a little. She is attending WSU. She's scheduled to get her associate degree this fall in December. She's interested in a career in art, and this is one of her silkscreen prints from last fall. So my son also is in the psychology department as an undergrad, and very happy to be here. So that's all I have to present, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You have met all my expectations as our alumni star. I want to thank you for sharing. You were just fabulous. Give her
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
This is for you.
Thanks. You had a question.
Yes. Does Rainbows United work with things like Heart Springs or the Buddy Walk or
I'm not sure about the buddy walk. Heartspring, one of the directors, talked to us at all staff, and everybody loved what he had to say. He said, we're not competing, we're complementary. So that's how I'd say, we complement each other. And the buddy walk, I assume, is a fundraising.
It is a fundraising, but it's put on by multiple Wichita events, and your target audience is their target audience. So
yeah,
wanting to create associations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we do several fundraising projects throughout the year. As one ends, then they're right on starting on the next one. So, yeah. Other questions?
Right. Jane, so I've heard, I don't know if this is right, but the services that Rainbows is providing for children with autism, that's kind of being evaluated now from a research perspective, and that's one of the first times that's been happening with their programs or something like that. Do you have a role with that?
I know that we provide services through the autism waiver, and there may be an evaluation to do with that, and I'm not.
But what you've done there is, as I remember talking to you over the years, is introduced evaluation, where across the board, where they hadn't had that much. As you're saying, they just did outputs,
right,
but not outcomes.
Right.
That's just so important.
I can't take credit for introducing evaluation, because there are always, with different grants, there always were requirements of evaluation and meeting outcomes and things like that. But for the most part, I've helped them find measures that they can use in the process of serving clients, instead of seeing outcomes measurement as, oh, now you're asking us to do all this other work that we weren't prepared to do. So things like that.
Make it more sophisticated.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Well, every year we do this. Somebody asked about jobs, and so we just started making it part of our thing. And in your packet, you'll find some sample jobs. Oh, thank you. That's okay. Get me all wired up here. Every year we talk about jobs because people want to hear about jobs. And let me start by saying that every graduate of our program has a job. And not only do they have jobs, they have really good jobs. Oh, and not, yeah. I mean, and they're good jobs, and they're doing, and I think probably what's most important is they're doing jobs, they're doing things that they like and love to do. And I think Jane is a great example of that. I mean, she has her heart in Rainbows, and she was a parent and she works there. That's very special. And that's not atypical for community psychologists. That's because our students figure out the kind of things they want to do while they're here, and we work with them very actively to really customize and shape their education here toward what they want to do. So when they graduate, they get jobs. And in fact, at times we have to be careful that they don't get jobs before they graduate, because it makes it harder to graduate. So about half of our folks end up in academic or research settings as professors, as researchers, as evaluators. About half end up in community settings doing program development, advocacy, program evaluation, and a variety of things. But almost everybody ends up in a job in an area that they have a certain passion for. And it isn't like they graduate and go, oh, I wonder what I want to do. They usually have a pretty good idea of the kind of things they want to do. So how many jobs did I send out this morning? I bombarded everybody. I have a listserv. I have a little distribution list. I got up early this morning. Oh, yeah. And I did lump a bunch of today, but they're all from this week. I just kind of got behind as the week unfolded. Usually I try to send them out almost every day, but there were 12. Was it 12? It was a lot. It was a lot. And hey, I held back. There are 4 or 5 more that I'll probably send next week, and I didn't even send the 12 new jobs on the American Evaluation Association listserv. Not all of them might be appropriate. I try to pick ones off of there that people would be really interested. And I'm going to apply for that postdoc at Berkeley and go hang out with Meredith Minkler for a couple years.
Get your surfing.
Well, they don't do much surfing at Berkeley, but they do a lot of other things. So jobs are something that our students used to worry about, but they don't worry about them anymore because they all get jobs and they do what they like. And last year, everybody got jobs and they're doing cool things. And faculty don't like to talk about some of the salaries our students make because it makes us jealous. There's a couple that are making really good money right out, and everybody makes decent money. So, questions about jobs that some of you might have. If you want to be on my listserv, just let me know. Yes.
Now you have a list of different jobs and things, but have you had companies that have kind of created positions for some of your students?
I think there have been places that positions kind of got created because they met our students, like Jane Evie. Once she was there, they never let her go. I mean, she did, and I remember the meeting we had doing the practicum. Because we had the lady from Arizona on the phone, and they were going, well, we have a grant due in a week, and so her practicum turned out to be a job. Yeah. And that's not so unusual that people learn about our students, and in fact, we get calls that say, hey, do you have students for practicum? And we go, well, not right now, because we try to customize our practicum for our students, and so the sites are not the same every year. So I think the answer is to some degree, yes, but most of our students apply to jobs that are out there that have the skills, they want the skills that our students have, our graduates have. But are they ever going to let you go over at Health and Wellness Center? I'm serious. There's 3 or 4 people that work at the Center for Community Support and Research that started as students, and they don't let them go. Our folks don't have trouble finding jobs. They worry about it that last year.
Yeah, you gotta worry a little. I mean, there's not gonna be lines to your door, but you will find a job. And I mean, it's all over the country. We've got them from Canada to where?
Well, all over, and about half of our folks are employed in the Wichita and Kansas area, and the other half are everywhere.
So if you do have a family that keeps you here, it is possible to find employment in this area.
Yeah.
Good employment.
Yeah. And we're beginning to become the secret supplier of assistant professors all over the state, and not necessarily in psychology departments. Sociology at Emporia State, criminal justice at Wichita State, leadership studies at Fort Hays State, social work here at Wichita State, nursing at Wichita State. Oh, what? 5 people working at KU Med, mostly in the School of Public Health, preventive medicine. So, yeah, if people want to stay in this area, people want to hire you. Again, we have to be kind of a little careful. We don't, you all do, not to take jobs before you're done, because it's tough to finish your dissertation. Oh, and by the way, you work more than 40 hours. Well, I always say this, nobody believes me until they call me back after they get their job. You actually work harder when you're done with school than while you're here, but you're also happier, and you do make more money than while you're here. Yeah, and that does include the quality of life. Though, mostly it's because you're driving yourself as opposed to having other people's deadlines. And most people that graduate, I mean, they're their own boss in a certain way, which is both good and bad, because we drive ourselves probably the hardest. But the folks that come into our program, they're not, I don't think they're driven to become millionaires. They're more driven to do things that make their communities better, and the jobs and the money come along with it. And so that's why they're happy. They're happy because they're out doing things. And Lewis Brand, one of our alumni, sent out a job ad yesterday. He needs a colleague down at the University of Texas School of Public Health in El Paso. And he is so thrilled working in El Paso, and he says it's so different than he thought it was going to be. He had incorrect stereotypes about what a border city would be like, and it's very exciting, and he's doing all kinds of great work. So, other job-related questions? All right. Thanks.
Thank you. How's this go? Okay, everyone. I'm David, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about tips for applying to grad school. You have a sheet. I think it's the last one in the, what is that, the left side of your folder? I believe in the back. So the first tip is to start early. Applying to grad school is a pretty lengthy process. You have to write, I can't remember how many different essays or paragraphs. There's a lot of information you need to include, so it is good to start early. And like our panel said, do give your references time to actually write the letter. It is going to take a bit, and you can't really just give someone like, hey, can you write me a recommendation letter by tomorrow? That's not going to happen.
If it does, it'll be very, very short.
Yeah, you want them to make you look good. It's good to apply to more than one program that interests you. Obviously, you'll have a better chance just because you applied to more than one. What? I don't know.
I think on average we calculated 3 to 5 is what people said they had applied to.
Just applied to 12, but.
Just an outlier.
No kidding. If you can, get a copy of a statement of purpose, just so you can read it and look over what may be a good example for your own statement of purpose. Get involved in research early. That's going to look really good on your grad school application if you have research experience already. Prepare to take the graduate record exam. It is a pretty lengthy test, and it's over a lot of things, probably some of which you haven't studied in a long time. So things like algebra and I think I'm pretty good at math. So I was like, yeah, I don't need to study, but no, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. And then I think they change the questions as you go based on how many questions you get right or wrong. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those tests after you're done with it, you're just like, oh, I did terrible. And then, yeah. It's intense. And then also you want to allow yourself time for them to send you the results back because it's not automatic. And you may want to retake it. It's good to know the professors you're going to go research with to make sure that their interests align with your interests. It would be terrible to get accepted to a program and then have 4 or 5 years of doing research you didn't want to do. It just seems like it could be somewhat of a waste of time. It's good to go visit the schools and sit in on classes if you can, just so you can get a feel for what's going on. And another important step is to follow up with the schools you applied for to make sure that they got all of your application materials. It could be that something got lost in the mail, or maybe one of your references didn't come in, but that's always good to check to make sure that they have everything they need from you. Do you guys have any questions about applying? Yes, sir.
We take 4 to 5 students. That's all we have room for, that's all we have funding for. That's one reason I think it's important to apply to more than one place.
How many applicants do you have for those 4 and 5
About
spots?
20 last year, I think. Is that right, Greg?
Oh, it was closer to 30.
Closer to 30.
So there is some competition.
some programs, they get a lot of applications and half of them don't make sense. Almost everybody that applies to our program, I mean, they're not doing it like by accident. And so most of those 30 are appropriate applications. And so the decisions are sort of tough at the end. And so, yeah, you want to make your very best case.
That's why getting involved in research is very important, so that we know you and we know your abilities.
Inside your folder is a packet that includes the application requirements and some more information. There are 2 sample statement of purposes to give you an idea of former students' work on their statement of purpose. And there's a variety of other information, including the recruitment.
Are you talking? You want to put a mic on?
Oh.
So we can hear you because we're live streaming. Just hold it.
Okay, just gonna hold it. So yes, inside the packet, there's, yeah.
Just hold it.
Okay, so there is a packet that includes the application. There is 2 statement of purpose samples for you to kind of get an idea of how those are written, and maybe some ideas of maybe something you could include on yours that you wouldn't normally put on there. And the other thing I was going to mention is that there's a contact sheet that has all the recruitment committee members' email addresses. So if you've met someone today that you'd like to follow up with and create a little bit of a relationship, maybe you have some extra questions that you think of later, please email us. That's all I had.
Any questions? I thought somebody was going to go through the packet.
I thought we decided not to do that because it took so long.
Okay, let's go through
Does anyone have one? Okay. All right, we'll go through the packet. Okay, so we had our agenda for today. Here's the contact sheet. We have a Facebook. It's not very current. We have a website. All right. So inside the application packet, there is a welcome letter from our graduate coordinator, Dr. Zettel. I'll let you guys read through that on your own. Provides you a little bit of information. A specific letter for those interested in community psychology written by our own Dr. Greg Meissen. Tells you a little bit about the GTA. A little introduction to the required courses. It's double-sided. Total number of hours to total 90 hours. Our faculty roster, a little bit about them. And a little bit about the faculty's research. This will help pinpoint maybe some faculty members that you'd like to contact to learn more about their research, and perhaps ask them if they have room for an undergraduate to visit their lab. So that would be a great opportunity for each of you. Here's the application. I'm a little bit confused, so I might ask Dr. Birdsell to help me out on this. So with going to the online application process, we don't fill this paper application out. You'll find the same one in a PDF.
No.
Nope.
Online.
All online. All online.
And you don't have to finish it all at once. You can come back.
Oh, perfect. Good. Good, good, good.
But that will give you an idea of some of the information that's going to be online, so it doesn't hurt you to look over. Right.
Sure, I might even probably pencil in all the information so I have it right in front of me.
Eliminate some of it, didn't we?
We did. There's nothing that can hurt you.
Well, for example, don't bother penciling in all your courses.
Right, no.
They go ahead and printed out forms for your recommendation letters. Looks like we have 3 forms for 3 letters. That makes sense.
That's all changing too.
That's all changing as well. Okay. This gives you an idea of the type of information that you'd want to have ready for them. Lastly is probably the thing that's going to be most important to you, your application to become a graduate research assistant or GTA, which will make sure that you get funded. All very important things, money, relationships. So any questions about the application process?
One thing not to overlook, one thing we must not overlook, you will also have to fill out a graduate application for graduate school.
That is,
Totally separate from us.
is that still $50?
I don't know what they're charging nowadays. It's probably a robbery, whatever it is. Get that on tape.
Yeah. Some things that I did that I found pretty helpful is I started a year before I was going to actually apply, and I got involved in 2 different research groups, two or three different research groups, 1 clinical, 2 community. And that gave me some contacts to ask for letters of recommendation that had experienced my work ethic. Another thing is I did exactly what Carrie did, and I created packets for each of my letters of recommendation individuals. I had everything that they needed to get to know me if they didn't already know my history and background of where I've came from, and maybe even some of my grades in certain classes. And then I made it very easy to send off the letter of recommendation with those stamped self-addressed envelopes. Let's see, anything else that I did? I think for studying for the GRE, the most helpful was taking the practice tests. That was the most helpful for me. Really?
They have the vocab that you have to learn. They have it where you can play that on your iTouch or your iPhone, your any MP3 player.
So any questions about being a GTA or applying or the coursework that we have? Okay.
We're running out of time. Let's have them fill out the evaluation form, and also we're going to draw for the door prizes.
So inside your folder, you'll find an evaluation. Just a quick survey. Fill it out for us and leave it.
We've got these little door prizes, a little post-it note and pen, and also, of course, Panera card. So, I'm sure everybody wants a Panera card first, right? Okay, Laura, you be my helper. I think most everybody's gonna win one, right? Tiffany win. Kelsey Hunter.
Thank you. Probably not need your name.
Okay. Carrie Terrell. What else do I have in there? Okay. Demo. Allison Schielick. Sometimes it does come in good to come in last. Okay. Thomas Skinner. Kristen. That's my last one. All right. That's all I have. I wish everybody could win. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. But thank you all for coming. That's all I have. coming as well, and thank the faculty.
Where are you guys, where should they drop off the evaluation?
Just, you can
Thank you,
leave on your
Superintendent.
table.
I want to thank all the faculty as well for bringing the tree. I want to get a picture of you and the students. Come Yeah, I need your information and why is she asking me?
I went through that.
You should be living it from my phone, I don't know.